Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. Welcome to this session dedicated to Destination 5, focusing on land, ocean and water for climate. My name is Elisabetta Balzi. I'm the head of the Healthy Seas and Ocean Unit at DG Research and Innovation. And today we would like to present to you this destination. I would like to start by noting that we invite you, participants from all over the EU and beyond, to ask a question during the presentation using Slido. So to access Slido, please go to www.slido and insert the hashtag Cluster 6 Info Day to join the event, and then select the room on the Destination 5, Land, Ocean and Water for Climate Action. And we would like to request you to label the question with a topic number. So please start by indicating the topic number and then pose your question. Next slide, please. In this session, we would like first to give you an overview of a call 2022 with a destination call Land, Ocean and Water for Climate Action. Then the colleagues will be presenting to you shortly the 2022 topics. And as you know, this call includes 5 topics, which are not distributed into headings. And the topics are about climate-sensitive water allocation system and economic instruments. Second, understanding the oceanic carbon cycle. Third, demonstrating network on climate-smart farming, boosting the role of advisory services. Fourth, fostering the resilience of food security from observation of changes to the development of resilient strategies. And fifth, on forestry, European Observatory of Climate Change Impacts and Demonstration Network of Climate-Smart Restoration Pilots. Next slide, please. What is the intervention logic of this destination? The general policy context for this call is the Green Deal, and in particular, the climate law. It has also strong connections with the biodiversity strategy, the farm-to-fork strategy, the common agricultural policy, and the farm-to-fork strategy, I already mentioned. This call corresponds to the destination land, ocean, and water for climate action. Fork strategy, I already mentioned. This call corresponds to the destination land, ocean, and water for climate action. And this destination is the translation of one of the 6 targeted impacts identified for Cluster 6 in the strategic plan. And this is specifically climate neutrality, which is achieved by reducing greenhouse gases emissions, maintaining natural carbon sinks, and enhancing the sequestration and storage of carbon in ecosystems, including by unfolding the potential of nature-based solutions, production systems on land and at sea, as well as rural and coastal areas, where adaptation to climate change are also being fostered for enhancing resilience. So this call is expected to contribute to the 7 following impact areas as identified in this strategic plan. First, climate change mitigation and adaptation. Second, enhancing ecosystems and biodiversity on land and in water. Third, clean and healthy air, water and soil. Then sustainable food systems from farm to fork on land and sea. Then a resilient EU prepared for emerging threats. A secure and open EU society. And finally, last but not least, an inclusive growth and new job opportunities. Next slide, please. Proposal for topics under this destination should set out a credible pathway to contributing to innovative governance and sound decision-making in policy for the green transition. So the green transition is a key impact that we are expecting to help with this call. And more specifically, the proposals are expected to respond to one of the following impacts. Better understanding and enhancing the mitigation potential of ecosystems and sectors based on the sustainable management of natural resources. Advanced understanding and science to support adaptation and resilience of natural and managed ecosystems, water and soil systems and economic sectors in the context of a changing climate. Then, an efficient monitoring and assessment and projections related to climate change impacts, mitigation and adaptation potential in order to bring out solutions for tackling emerging threats and support decision-making in climate change mitigation and adaptation policies at European and global levels. Then, fostering climate change mitigation in the primary sector, including by the reduction of greenhouse gases emissions, by maintenance of natural carbon sinks, and enhancement of sequestration and storage of carbon in ecosystems at land and sea. Then improving adaptive capacity of water and soil systems and sectors, including by unlocking the potential of nature-based solutions. And finally, better managing scarce resources, in particular soils and water, thus mitigating climate-related risk, in particular desertification and erosion, thanks to informed decision makers and stakeholders and integration of adaptation measures in relevant EU policies. Next slide, please. An amount of 17 million euros is proposed to be spent on this call, and the majority of actions, 3 out of 5, are research and innovation actions. One topic is an innovation action, and one topic is a coordination and support action. Next slide, please. So I would like to remind you again to use Slido for your questions. You can already start to ask questions. We also encourage you to follow us on social media. And next slide, please. I would like now to have your attention to listen to a first series of 2 topics presentations under the call on climate, and we will then open a question and answer session through Slido. The first topic will be presented by Panagiotis Balabanis, and it is about climate-sensitive water allocation systems and economic instrument. Thank you, Panos. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Elisabetta. Dear all, I think that you can also hear me. A pleasure also to be with you and to present, very shortly this topic, which is a topic, as I will also indicate later on, this is a topic for an innovation action. So very briefly, we can see here what is the policy context, as we said, and I think the rationale of this topic comes from the fact that, as we all know, the current water allocation regimes nowadays, are very, largely shaped by historical, preferences and use patterns. So these allocation regimes are not always, taking into consideration, the new needs. Our economy has completely changed, but also the main other elements coming to our days, in particular also the climate change impacts, as I said, growing demands from the different also water use sectors. It is therefore, very important also to try also to reassess the current, allocation systems. We have also to focus on different, regions and sectors, because this is, is very important. And we have also to look, in particular in the context of climate change, the future needs. This topic, as also Elisabetta mentioned in this intervention logic, as you can see, addresses also one of the expected impacts, which has been also identified for this destination. And this is, more the destination impacts, which is about the understanding of the science, and also to support also the adaptation resilience of natural systems, in particular also water, water systems in the changing climate. And here you can see which are some of the expected outcomes of this call. Is, as I said, trying to assess also to achieve, a better, sharing, transparent sharing between also the water between the different also sectors. Trying also to inform also to reduce also the water footprint, of the water user sectors, in particular, agriculture, energy industry. Trying also to promote financing mechanisms. This is important because we speak about transition, so this is more looking also at the economical dimension. Look also to support decision makers, and last but not least, this is of course in line with the trying also to support the European Green Deal and the different also relevant sustainable development goals. Next slide, please. Here you can see in the next slides, which is about more to see what are the particular also scope of this topic. As I mentioned, as you can see here, so this is of course trying properly also value water, because you know that water has different values, and so in order also to help people also to address appropriate tariffs and prices, it is important also to value water more appropriately. So as I said, this is an innovation action, so we would like also not only to develop this allocation models, but also to test and demonstrate in different also river basins, and also within different also sector. This is important in order also to convince and help also decision makers. What is important also is also trying also to consider the governance elements. So these are important elements, as you know, the interaction between the different policies. We have water, agricultural policy, climate policy, different also regulations. So it is important also to take this into consideration, and also to consider also that both the conventional, non-conventional water resources in allocating these tools. As I mentioned, it's important to look on river basins, in particular also to look on transboundary river basin, and also to develop, some standardized mechanism, for allocation of water in this transboundary river basin. And as I said, in particular, focus is about, water in agriculture. So we would like also to look also review should also take into consideration the climate change more particularly. So as I said, this is an innovation action. You see here the indicative budget. And as I mentioned, I think this is important to stress that this is a topic relevant for international cooperation. So we would like also to encourage international cooperation. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention and give you the floor back.
Thank you very much, Panos. And we would like now to proceed with presenting a second topic, which is dedicated to understanding the oceanic carbon cycle. And I would like to give the floor to my colleague, Larissa Lorenzi. Larissa, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Elisabetta. Hello, everybody. I would like to introduce to you the topic on the understanding the oceanic carbon cycle. In terms of the policy context, it is very much embedded in the European Green Deal, and most notably its climate and biodiversity objectives, where basically strengthening the ocean climate nexus research and understanding the natural ocean carbon sinks and their potential role in mitigation and adaptation to climate change are very important, as well as identifying lasting solutions for healthy and resilient seas and ocean, and closing the knowledge gaps in support of decision-making for the aim of preserving the integrity of the ocean and its aquatic ecosystems. The expected outcomes of this topic is to further the ocean exploration. It is quite a large topic that has the systems approach, and it sets itself forth to understand the predictability of the oceanic carbon cycle, as well as to improve the potential of the ocean and its ecosystems to contribute to the next generation of carbon cycling models, such as, for example, those used by the IPCC to set global climate policy. Another expected outcome is enhanced understanding of the oceanic stocks and sinks and their potential inclusion in the greenhouse gas inventories, as well as significantly contribute to closing the knowledge gaps for the oceanic carbon cycle, and make important contributions to international assessments such as the IPCC, IPBES, the World Ocean Assessment, and other initiatives. If I could have the next slide, please, then I will introduce the scope. The oceanic carbon cycle is a central element of the global carbon cycle, and it contains its three main processes, or also known as pumps. the solubility pump, the carbonate pump, and the biological pump. The action that we would like to fund here would look into the efficiency, the climate sensitivity, and the emerging feedbacks linked to the oceanic carbon cycle, with the desire to understand the temporal and the regional variability and quantify and predict the potential of the carbon uptake, as well as to explore the large-scale carbon uptake potential of the deep sea and its water column. We expect the project funded to deliver quantification and the predictability of the sinks and the magnitude of the sign of the projections of the future global ocean primary production. It is very important that the action will further the regional predictability skill beyond 5 years. We will as well require investigation of the tipping points and the irreversibility linked to the oceanic carbon cycle, both for the upper ocean as well as for the intermediary and deep ocean, the biogeochemical feedbacks and the changes that will occur in the 21st century, both globally and regionally, and how the multiple stressors are affecting the primary production. In terms of focusing in on the biological pump and the deep ocean carbon sinks, we would like to see an exploration on the efficiency and the global magnitude of the sink and the responses to the ongoing anthropogenic changes, such as, for example, the ocean warming, the acidification, and the oxygenation. We would like to see research done on the marine pelagic and benthic intervertebrate and vertebrate carbon and carbon services, the intricate biological pathways involved in the carbon cycling, as well as linking them to the global population dynamics, and gather enough evidence to enable their inclusion in the models of carbon cycling. We would like as well to see the resilience of these systems to the cumulative impacts of global changes. An expected impact is to see sampling at regions and metrics for marine organisms, and to gather evidence and data to estimate and quantify the global CO2 sequestration potential of protecting and restoring populations of intervertebrate and vertebrates to previous levels. Actions funded should certainly contribute to the ocean observations and the digital twin of the ocean by providing the ocean carbon modeling environment. We also expect to receive policy recommendations and implications for the funded research. It is a research and innovation action, quite a large project, so for 15 million euros. And it's very important to highlight that it requires a collaborative approach and research across disciplines and taking the ecosystems approach. International cooperation is very much encouraged, and there's the requirement to look to link to existing projects and research funded by Horizon 2020 or Horizon Europe, and as well other European and international ocean observing initiatives. With this, I would like to thank you very much for your attention. I hope that the topic has captured your interest as well, and I would like to wish you successful submission of proposals. And I give back the floor to Elisabetta. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Larissa, also for this very exhaustive presentation. I would like now to open the question and answers session, and again inviting you to submit your questions in the Slido. And I'll give the floor to my colleague Guido Giudetti, who will moderate.
Yes, thank you. Actually, we have a question for topic 01. The question asks, is the involvement of non-EU riparian countries of EU transboundary rivers like Serbia for Danube encouraged as international cooperation? I think this is for Panagiotis.
Yes, thank you very much. Happy also to reply. Yes, indeed, we also, indicate also in the as I also mentioned it from in my presentation. So this is open for international cooperation. So we encourage international cooperation, and of course in transboundary rivers. So it would be important to have also the countries which are around also this river basin also to be involved. And so we are both, let's say, the associated and non-associated countries can also participate. And of course, the countries that, according to the rules, can also receive funding will be also eligible also to receive funding. So the reply is yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this was the only question for this first session. And I give back the floor back to you.
Thank you. And I would like also to confirm that indeed international cooperation is, in general, a very important dimension of our program. Also for the second topic that we presented, as Larissa rightly underlined, it's very important, the international dimension. We can then pass to the second set of topics to be presented. And I would like to give the floor to Natalia Blesnina to present the first topic, which is a demonstration network on climate-smart farming, boosting the role of advisory services. Natalia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Elisabetta. And just 1 second. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to present to you the coordination and support action on demonstrating network and climate-smart farming, boosting the role of advisory services. So, a wide adoption of practices contributing to mitigation of climate change and carbon storage by farmers is a priority to ensure that the EU delivers on the European Green Deal and reaches the greenhouse gas mitigation objectives by 2030 and climate neutrality by 2050. And farming, on the other side, is also vulnerable to impacts of climate change. Hence, adaptation is of utmost importance. Mainstreaming the use of climate-smart practices for both mitigation and adaptation has been also recognized as a priority at the global level, including at the G20. In particular, the engagement of farmers in this effort needs to be increased. Therefore, a strong involvement of member state acquis is needed, as well as the development of targeted advice to farmers on climate issues. And the aim is to establish actually a three-level network in a phased manner over the Cluster 6 Work Programme 21-22 and 23-24. The first level is actually, there was a topic in the 2021, it is a network which will engage front-runner farmers, introducing on-farm trials and demonstration of innovations using existing knowledge. The second level is actually this topic, is a network to connect all advisors on the subject in the member states, building on achievements of the Horizon 2020 projects and EIP Agri operational groups, and the development of member states' acquis to ensure the provision of targeted advice. And then there will be a third level of this network in the next work program that will engage and strengthen the capacity of experimental research stations on climate issues. So what do we actually expect from the project? We expect that it will expand knowledge base of climate-related practices, assessing and evaluating different methods with all relevant actors involved. It will also speed up the involvement and adoption by farmers of innovative smart farming practices that mitigate the emissions and also foster adaptation. And finally, increased involvement of agriculture knowledge and innovation system acquis in climate-related farming issues with a view to wider dissemination and interaction within the member states. And having said that, what is actually in the scope of the project? So we would like the proposals to use advisors to spread solutions from practice-oriented on-farm testing and demonstration in the project that will be funded under the first work program Horizon Cluster 6 2021 Climate 0104 on linking the pilot farms and help develop new solutions through taking part in practice-oriented innovation projects such as EIP Agri operational groups. The next slide, sorry, please. Yeah, and then the second, what the proposal should do is to collect and provide toolkits for greenhouse gas balances at farm level, performance monitoring, decision tools, climate services, etc., for possible use by a wide range of farms. Then the proposal should also support the implementation of the EU Carbon Farming Initiative as foreseen in the Farm to Fork strategy and the implementation of the third-party certification of carbon removals as foreseen in the Circular Economy Action Plan. The proposals shall also foster knowledge exchange within member states and regions and establish link with the EIP Agri and AKIS networks and AKIS coordination bodies of the member states and associated countries. It is also important to link advisors in an EU climate smart farming network, including advisors in all member states, to stimulate effective cross-fertilization among the member states' advisors, and include also a sufficient number of various types of advisors per country, taking into account the size of the member states and ensuring a broad EU coverage. As I indicated, proposals should include also a task to collaborate with other projects involved in the network that is composed of the 3 levels. So the projects that are funded under this topic in 2021 on linking pilot farms, but also that topic to be published in the work program 23-24 on the experimental research stations. And finally, the project should operate for at least 7 years and build on climate-related projects from various funding sources, also beyond Horizon. And the project must implement a multi-actor approach and may involve social innovation. And in this project, the integration of gender dimension is actually not a mandatory requirement. And in terms of budget, we foresee 20 million euro for one project. Thank you. Elisabetta, should I continue with the next one?
Thank you very much, Natalia. And indeed, you will also present the next topic, which is about fostering the resilience of food security from observation of changes to the development of resilient strategies. Please go ahead, Natalia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this is actually a research and innovation action. And in line actually with the European Green Deal climate ambition, the project implementation is expected to contribute to the mitigation and adaptation to climate change and help achieve climate neutrality by 2050. And the focus of the topic is actually on resilience of the farming sector to exogenous shocks that needs to be boosted. Impacts of climate change in the short to medium term are gaining more and more importance, and there is an actually urgent need to develop resilient strategies. It is also necessary to set up a capacity to observe short-term to long-term impacts of climate change and reinforce strategies to deal with those impacts. So what the project's results are expected to contribute is the establishment of a comprehensive capacity to observe the short-term to long-term drivers of climate change and their impacts on agriculture in key areas. Also, we want to achieve better informed policies and strategies regarding mitigation and adaptation to climate change and better resilience of the European food security to shocks such as those arising from various drivers of change, including climate change, and through also development of the strategies and policies. So what is in scope of the project? An observatory of the impacts of drivers of change on food security should be actually set up, and the observatory should cover at least the following issues related to the impact of climate of change. So one is the biodiversity and genetic resources, with a focus on agrobiodiversity and invasive species and genetic resources under pressure as a consequence of climate change. And the second is the sustainable productivity, including impact also on photosynthesis, animal and plant diseases, and nutritional composition. The observatory actually should make also use of various types of data at various geographical scales and should include, as appropriate, citizen observation. It should cover the main geographical regions of Europe. The observatory should also contribute to establish or reinforce strategies to deal with those impacts, and the impacts of shocks should be modeled as relevant for use in policy-relevant areas in order to improve resilience of the agri-food sector. And projects should contribute to the development of a contingency plan for ensuring food supply and food security that is to be put in place in times of crisis as foreseen in the Farm to Fork strategy. And the case study strategies should be developed in a participatory manner to foster the resilience in the short and long term and various geographical scales. And these resilience strategies should also take into account the mitigation and adaptation objectives of the EU. And what is important is that preparation of the strategies may be supported through grants to third parties. And in this case, actually, the proposal must define the process of selecting entities for which the financial support will be granted. And proposals should ensure that the approach proposed is compatible with and improves the tools that are used by the European Commission. And there is a possible participation of GRC in this project. And in this topic, the integration of gender dimension is also not mandatory. Thank you very much, and I wish you a lot of success with the preparation of the proposals.
Many thanks, Natalia, for presenting these two topics. And now we would like to proceed to a presentation of a last, but certainly not least, topic, which will be done by Michael Wolff, and it is about forestry, and in particular about a European Observatory of Climate Change Impacts and Demonstration Network of Climate-Smart Restoration Pilots. Michael, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Elisabeth, and hello, everyone. So, what we aim in with EU policies is to adapt Europe's forests to the new conditions and weather extremes caused by climate change. And thereby a holistic approach is needed to ensure that climate, biodiversity and bioeconomy goals are integrated. Furthermore, a better monitoring of climate change impacts and the sharing of experiences at the science-practice interface can help to implement new forest management practices successfully. So with this topic, we would like to contribute to the following outcomes: better knowledge on climate change impacts and pressures, combination of modern monitoring tools, remote sensing, and traditional approaches, demo sites, knowledge on restoration, afforestation, reforestation, and forest protection, best practices for effective adaptation and mitigation strategies, increased capacity and exchange of scientific knowledge, experience, and know-how, and the engagement of the society in forest restoration. Next slide, please. So, proposals will establish a European network to gather information on current developments in demo and long-term observation sites. What is also very important is that they will reinitiate EU participation in the ICP Forest. This is the International Cooperative Program on Assessment and Monitoring of Air Pollution Effects. They will also develop an evidence-based overview on current and planned forest restoration activities across Europe and assess their socioeconomic and environmental impacts. They will also quantify possible synergies and trade-offs between possibly contrasting management objectives, improve the knowledge on implementation success and failures, and distill best practices and well-working business models. They will also improve communication, capacity building, and exchange of experience, engagement with key stakeholders, and enable knowledge exchange beyond the forest community. Last but not least, this is a very important point, they will also pilot climate-smart forestry measures and support forest restoration in view of the diverse forest conditions, value chains, and societal needs. So important to know is that we estimate that an EU contribution of around 15 million would allow these outcomes to be addressed appropriately. We plan to fund one project. Proposals must implement the multi-actor approach. The JRC may participate as a member of the consortium. And we have also mentioned in the topic text the link to two other topics. So a close collaboration with other relevant projects is expected. And also international cooperation is strongly encouraged. I will stop here. I wish you all a good luck for potential applicants. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael, for your excellent presentation. And as you see, we have a system approach, and we are covering with this call. We hope to cover the whole system from forest to oceans and agriculture, land and food. I would like now to open the question and answer discussion, again encouraging you to submit your questions through Slido, and I would like to give the floor to Guido to moderate this session.
Yes, thank you again. Actually, we have a question again for topic 1, so a question for Panagiotis. So, which is, what's the scope of international cooperation, meaning validate solutions out of the European Union or involve non-European riparian countries of EU transboundary rivers?
Yes, dear colleagues, happy also to reply. In fact, this is both of the issues which are raised there are possible. I think this is within the scope of international cooperation. As I mentioned, also try also to validate also solutions at the European level, and also to see the benefit for international cooperation, to support also some international commitments. The Commission has also a lot of agreements with many countries, also in particular also in Africa, for instance. But of course, I would also invite also the proponents also to look on the international cooperation dimension overall of the in the strategic program. There has been also in communication the global approach for research and innovation. So there are also the rationale of international cooperation, and this could be also of general use. Thank you.
You're welcome. And so we're done for the questions. I give back the floor, Elisabetta.
Thank you, Guido. I think there was also general questions on the slides. The slides will be made available after this meeting. This meeting also has been recorded, and the recording will be available after the meeting. So you are welcome also to spread this information. If there are no further questions or comments, I would like to thank all the speakers for the presentations, all the colleagues from the agency also who organized the meeting, and of course the audience for the participation. We warmly encourage you to participate in this call. If there are still unanswered questions or questions that you would like to raise, these can be addressed after the info days through the Research Enquiry Service. And we hope that this session has been useful for the preparation of high-quality proposals, and we look forward to your participation. Many thanks to all, and have a nice day.